We really have had so many wonderful and inspirational talks here in the center throughout the years. And as a spiritual community, I find it funny because we very rarely talk about spiritualism. And not that all the inspirational stories that we do hear aren't inspiring and don't relate to spiritualism, because I think they do. It's about, finding your way and being a better person and your connection to spirit. And, but I would like to talk about our principles today. And actually, I do have, for those who are here, we do actually have them in our songbooks, but for those of you who are not, give me a second, I'm going to pop them up on the screen so that those of you on Zoom can also see them. And I'll just keep them up for a few minutes in case you want to see them for yourself. And of course, I'm going to tell you what I believe each of these principles, or we call them a mission statement here, what they mean to me. And they really are individual, and each of you can interpret how they mean to you. And it really does depend, I think, where you are on your journey in this life and at what point you're at in discovering your own spirituality. So as we know, just a little background, modern spiritualism began in 1848 with the Fox sisters, when the family, as well as a previous owner, had experienced tapping sounds or rappings in their Hydesville, New York farmhouse. The youngest sister, Kate, challenged Spirit to repeat the raps and eventually worked out a code so that they can communicate. The Spirit had identified himself as a man who was murdered in the home, and later human remains would be discovered buried in the cellar, as the Spirit had informed them. Soon after, the practice of having sittings for communication with Spirit quickly spread. But of course, there was also much opposition from religious leaders who claimed spiritualism was witchcraft. Much research pursued, and as with a lot of professions, there were many who were proven to be fraudulent. And although it cast a shadow on spiritualism, it did not deter those who truly did believe, and they still continued to pursue studying, and even under the threat of laws forbidding it. Although considered a religious practice, it wasn't until 1893 that spiritualism became a religion, when the National Spiritualist Association was founded. More mediums started to surface. Many continued to meet in small groups for communication and practice, but larger groups began to assemble in service for healing and demonstrations, much like our service today. The practice of mediumship had a huge rebirth in the 1970s as the New Age movement marched in. And although the New Age movement started to dissipate in the 1990s, mediumship continued to grow. Standards were raised, and as we teach here at ISC, evidential mediumship became important in providing proof of communication. It's one thing to be given a message, but how good is that message if we can't validate where it's coming from? So we do have responsibilities, which brings me to our principles. These often vary from church to church, but these are the ones we've adopted at our center, and the ones, as I mentioned, that are in our songbooks. Just let somebody in. So I'm going to just quickly go through each of them. So 1, we are all brothers and sisters to each other. Respect and acceptance of each individual is necessary for the growth of humanity. This principle tells us that we are all created from the one greater infinite source, Mother, Father, God, and therefore we are all related to one another. We are all connected in our existence. And I personally also take it to mean that we may not always agree, but we must always respect each other, regardless if someone else's beliefs coincide with yours. We must learn to love each other unconditionally in order to live harmoniously, to try to understand the needs of others in order to assist them. Look for the commonality in others and grow your relationship from there. And if you think there are none, then how about the biggest one of all, the human experience in and of itself? Although it may look different for everyone, we are all here as part of the collective energy and consciousness that is existence itself. As we learn to give, we also learn to receive in order to create balance. I am you and you are me, and we both matter. The second one says, service to our physical world and service to the spiritual world are both part of our humanity. Although some religious groups also believe that it's important for our growth to be in service to others, As spiritualists, we believe it's equally important to honor and serve spirit as well. We honor those in the physical as well as those we know continue to be a part of our lives in the spiritual realm. And how rude it would be just to ignore them when we know of their existence and that we can help each other. Communication with spirit is important to our healing and growth, and I believe it's equally important to theirs. Those of us who are mediums have a great responsibility to provide a service to both our sitters and our communicators, and to do so with integrity, humility, and grace. As spiritualists whose existence is based in the belief of spirit communication, it's crucial to provide evidential information so that others can decide for themselves what's real and what isn't. To do otherwise could do more harm than good. The third one says, we are all a part of that infinite energy of spirit, and with that we have the eternal potential for the continuation of learning, growth, and communication. We can so easily appreciate the milestones of our children and what they accomplish and marvel in their growth, yet we forget that we too are still growing and reaching milestones. We never stop learning. Physical existence is just one part of our experience. And when we pass from the physical, we continue our learning in spirit form. How quickly we grow or open to our potential is individual to each of us. Expanding your mind and thinking allows us to reach milestones quicker. After all, spiritualists were once known as the free thinkers. We must let go of judgment, hate, and fear, and be the best representation of love we can be. Of course, mediumship is something everyone can develop if they choose, but you don't have to be a medium. You just have to be a good person. Number 4, we have personal responsibility to ourselves and therefore responsibility for all we have done, both positive and negative. A lot of people refer to this as karma. Many think karma is payback for some bad deed, but in reality, it works both ways. What you give, you get. Often we don't even realize that we may have harmed someone. Ignoring someone, for instance, can be just as painful as an unkind word. Sometimes it's unintentional or even unavoidable. We are responsible for our words, our deeds, and even our thoughts, but it's never too late to right a wrong. I'm sure we've all hurt someone at one time and another, and if you're not sure, then we'll know when our time comes and we have our life review. Not everyone may believe this to be the case, but I do. I don't believe there is an actual heaven or hell, but I believe the review is the suffering referred to as hell. We get to not only see but feel all the good as well as all the bad that we've done during our physical existence. There's no physical pain since we lack a physical body, but our soul feels it. It learns from it and it grows from it. It learns to do better and to be better. Of course, the best solution is to just always be as kind as you can be. At the end of the day, go to sleep in peace, knowing that even if you didn't help someone, at least you didn't hurt anyone. But imagine how much better you'd sleep if you actually did some good that day. 5, physical death is only the doorway to the continuation of our true essence, which is our soul spirit. As Einstein stated in the law of thermodynamics, energy cannot be created, nor can it be destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. Because we are energetic beings, once our physical bodies expire, everything contained within that is not connected to our physicalness continues on. I'm not even sure if physicalness is a word, but we're going to use it anyway. Our thoughts, our love, our emotions, our memories. I personally believe that our soul has many opportunities to experience a physical existence. Some even choosing what that experience will include. Some may choose to stay on in spirit to rest or to become teachers or healers or part of a support system to each other or to those in the physical. Either way, we don't just end because our bodies grow tired and eventually wither away. Number 6, I'm sure you'll be glad to know it's the last one. Communication and intelligent dialogue with our soul spirit continues after the event of death, of physical death, through mediumship. Again, this is an important part of what spiritualism is all about, the innate ability to remember the universal language of spirit. And I say universal language because how many times has a communicator that speaks another language come through to someone who doesn't speak that language? And a medium can still interpret what it is that needs to be said. So there is only one language, or perhaps no language at all. If there are no physical vocal cords to produce sounds to form words, then all communication must be done by manipulating the medium with thoughts or symbols, using different physical senses to help us interpret the information. This does not hurt the medium, and in fact, I don't think many even consider they're being manipulated. Communication is a partnership, and spirit is always willing to work with you in whichever method you choose. Some mediums may use one, all, or a combination of what we call clairs. And I'd love to give you an example of how my grandmother in spirit was looking out for me one particular day, manipulating multiple clairs in order to get my attention. Before she passed, she resided in a nursing home near where I lived. And every day when I passed it, I would always say hello to her, and I would feel her. I'd feel her presence, and I would feel her love, and I let her know that I was thinking of her. And we were very close. And I spent a lot of my childhood in her home over the weekends during the summer, playing cards, gardening, learning how to crochet and cook. They were simpler times, but some of the happiest. She always gave me her full attention, and she always had mine. So I welcomed those hellos, and they were like a game between us. I could always feel her presence and her love for me, clairsentience. But this one particular day, I passed and said hello, but then I immediately smelled the often unpleasant odor of the nursing home right there in my car. Clairalience. I laughed at first and told her I said hello, so what's the problem? And then I heard her voice yelling for me to stop. Clairaudience. Trusting this completely, I quickly slammed on my brakes after looking in the rearview mirror, of course, and seeing there were no cars behind me. And had I not listened to that voice, or to all the ways my grandmother tried to get my attention, I would have T-boned a car that was coming out of a hidden driveway. So thanks to my grandmother, I'm still here unscathed from that day, but I trust and I listen. And we all have that ability to listen and to hear, and it may not be as clearly as a medium giving a message, but there's signs all around us all the time. And I always say, if you're not sure what that is, and you see a cardinal and you think of your father who's passed, then that cardinal is your father saying hello. Not that he's the bird, but he sent that symbol to you to say hello and to, remind you that he's still around you. I believe that being a spiritualist or sharing a belief system, as mentioned in these principles, helps to remove the fear of death, which is really just a portal to the spirit world. It teaches us that death is not the cessation of life, but a mere change of condition. It teaches not that we have a soul, but that we have a soul with a physical body, and that we are all spiritual beings. It teaches that what we put out comes back to us. We reap what we sow. And we know that those who have passed are conscious beings, not dead nor asleep. Spirit inspires us, teaches us, guides us, and heals us. It helps us to understand that the spark of the divinity resides in each of us, that like a flower unfolds or a butterfly emerges, so does our spirit. Spiritualism is God's way of comforting us and letting us know there is no death, and that those who have passed still walk beside us. It brings us comfort and hope to know every soul will progress and go on. It makes us want to be better people. It gives us focus and meaning. And for me personally, it reminds me that the people we meet and the connections we make, the kindness we offer, and the love that we share is the reason for existing in the first place. We are meant to touch each other's hearts, but more importantly, to connect to each other's souls. So God bless and thank you for listening.